What is up, everyone? It's Gage here. Welcome to you, Buck Dad. And today I got special guest JC, who's going to break down Baker Mayfield's 4 years, including the Rams season. And we're going to get a little depth into what could be the Buccaneers starting quarterback.
Yep. How's it going, man? Thank you for having me on.
Of course, man. I've checked out your work on Twitter, man, and to say I was impressed is an understatement. How you were able to break things down is exactly how I was kind of seeing it. That's why everyone's like, "Oh, Baker sucks." You see him last year; he only won 1 out of 4 games. But yeah. I seen Baker when he was at Cleveland. He was very impressive for what he did there. And I'm going to let you break it down because you're better than I am. So I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but one of the reasons why I did it was because I kind of know how fans are, right? We all are very emotional. We're tied to our quarterbacks. We did the same thing when Jameis left, right? We blamed all of our woes, all of our losses on Jameis Winston, right? When maybe it was our offensive line wasn't as good, maybe we had a crappy running game, our coaching was terrible. No, it was all Jameis, right? So Cleveland fans were kind of doing the same thing with Baker, right? And so I really wanted to kind of dive in and try to understand, what is Baker's game? What is he best at? Where did he struggle? And the only way that I figured out that I could do that was actually watching him play, I didn't go into it thinking that I was going to watch every single game that he ever played. Sorry, Tampa thunderstorms are starting to hit in. I didn't think I was going to go in and watch every single game. But then once I started, it was like, oh, let me check out the next game and see how he did. And it just kind of snowballed into watching every single start Baker Mayfield ever made. And, I feel like I can at least talk intelligently about who Baker Mayfield is as an NFL quarterback. We all know the brash, tough guy from Oklahoma, the same guy that walked in the middle of the Ohio State field and planted the Oklahoma flag. I mean, we all know that guy, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't really know Baker, the NFL quarterback, so I really kind of wanted to dive into that, and that's why I did it.
Yeah, your breakdown, it was impressive, man, and I say, that's why, the one reason, that's the one thing I love about this, though. You're a fan, but also you're not going, oh, he sucks. He did this. It's like you're getting the reasons, the pros and cons of Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Going in depth. And as a fan, you can get a little clouded, like, oh, man, especially, and I'm excited to bring this because there's a lot of Kyle Trask fans out there. You watch Kyle Trask, his whole college career.
Yeah, I'm a Gator fan. I love the Gators. I grew up a Gator fan, and so yeah, I watched Kyle Trask, and I saw his amazing, final season at Florida, and I saw him almost beat Alabama, and so I am a big fan of Kyle Trask, and I when the Bucs drafted Trask, I was really excited about it because I really thought that he had the tools to be able to be an NFL quarterback. Since he's come to the Bucs, my confidence in him is a bit shaken, right? So, his first 2 seasons, all we really saw was him in preseason, and then the one, cup of coffee that he had against Atlanta, right? And what he showed on the field when we're seeing all these other young quarterbacks just lighting up these second and third and fourth string guys, Trask kept struggling. And so that really concerned me about his ability to really be the quarterback for the Bucs. So, and you and I were talking about it off stage before we started the podcast, and I was really excited to see Trask in last week's preseason game because all we heard about in camp was how great Kyle Trask is looking. Oh, he's giving Baker a run for his money. He may even be a little bit better than Baker Mayfield. We get to the game, and we see Kyle Trask, the NFL quarterback, the same Kyle Trask we've seen in the preseasons before against Atlanta. He looked like the same guy to me. Hopefully this week against the Jets that'll change, but right now I think Baker's the leader in the clubhouse, and I think Baker would really have to fall on his face in the next couple of weeks to not be the starting quarterback when we play Minnesota.
I 100% agree. And honestly, when I was hearing all this stuff, I was like, you know what, either way, we'll have a subpar quarterback. But I think it was just a lot of hype. Like Kyle Trask, I've said this since since Tom Brady retired. It's Kyle Trask has a resume, but he hasn't backed it up. I mean, he's learned under the greatest quarterback of all time. He wasn't a backup. He's pretty sure redshirted for the past 2 years. But at this point, I know he hasn't played it, but at this point, he should be the guy. He should be ready. It's been 3 years.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting him to be ready. The reports that we were getting from camp had me kind of excited to think that, hey, he's learned a lot from Tom. He's ready to take the reins. Maybe he's gonna win this job and excel. And I was hoping for it. That's the best outcome for the Bucs. Is because they have Kyle under control for like another couple of seasons. Yeah. So if he did rise to the occasion and become quarterback that we all want him to be, then absolutely that's great news for the Bucs. And then Baker's a great backup. But I don't know, man. I still am not seeing it yet. And Baker had it wasn't, I won't call it a great game. He didn't have a great game against Pittsburgh, but he had a solid game, didn't make any mistakes. And that pass to Trey Palmer was a thing of beauty, and one that was vintage Baker Mayfield. So, that really excited me because in my mind's eye, I'm thinking Evans, Godwin, those kind of passes into the end zone. Evans is going to have 20 touchdowns if Baker keeps throwing the ball like that.
Yeah, and that's what you're looking for, because we don't need a superstar quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. We just need a guy that can not turn the ball over, keep control of the game.
Yeah.
And Baker Mayfield, that's what all of us saw out there. And everyone's saying Baker Mayfield's throwing all these interceptions. There's a lot of concerns. Can he not turn over the ball when the most important? Because he's throwing a lot of picks in the end zone. Yeah. But in the game, practice doesn't always translate in the game. Kyle Trask then for a lot of picks, he's looking really good in practice. And then translate, and it showed. Baker Mayfield, he looked bad in practice, but I think he learned from his mistakes, and when it came game time, he was good because he got all that in practice.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about, Baker, Gage, if you don't mind. Going back all the way to his rookie season, Baker did throw a lot of interceptions, but he was also a huge playmaker. He would throw the deep ball. I mean, he was fantastic at the deep ball in his rookie season. He also was great at the fade, the end zone fade, the bread and butter of Mike Evans, right? And when I was watching those games from his rookie season tape, I was like, oh man, Mike is going to eat it up in this, especially with Canales' offense and bringing back those plays, because I don't know what the heck. I don't know if maybe Tom didn't like throwing those passes, or if, for some reason Leftwich just forgot they were in the playbook. but it was almost a crime that we didn't use Mike on those plays a lot more. Right. And to see that kind of come back to the offense and know that Baker was that good at delivering those passes, those 50-50 balls, and trusting his receiver and putting it right where only the receiver can make the play. That's what you want, man. That's exactly what you want, especially in this offense, right? And obviously his second season, he was not a good quarterback. And I will be completely honest with you, Gage. That shook me a little bit that second season when I watched that tape, because he was so bad. And it wasn't necessarily like, he was bad because the offensive line was terrible. The offensive line wasn't great. It wasn't he was bad because he didn't have any weapons. He had OBJ, he had Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb was already the starting running back. So it was really, I think he didn't mesh with the offense that Freddie Kitchens was running, and it just didn't work, and he was just terrible. That third season, when he came back, he was a different quarterback. Obviously Stefanski had taken over at that point. They installed an offense that's not too dissimilar to what Canales is running now, and that kind of changed everything for Baker. And that 2020 season, he was one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He was a top 10, top 5 quarterback in the NFL that season. And then, of course, he got hurt.
Yeah.
And, season for early in the season, he tore his rotator cuff. He tried to come back, came back way too early, was never the same quarterback. And the rest of the season, he just struggled because he couldn't make plays to the left side anymore. Anytime he tried to throw the ball to that side of the field, he didn't have the same power. He didn't have the same accuracy. He really struggled. And, it's funny. I kind of saw a lot of that in Carolina too. I don't know if he was fully healed yet. He said he was healed, but it still kind of seemed like he wasn't quite 100% all the way back yet. Towards the end of the season, when he started playing with the Rams, that looked a lot more like Baker Mayfield. Yeah. He was throwing it all over the field. He seemed to have his arm strength back. He was still struggling a little bit with his accuracy, but he was definitely, getting closer to where he was. And hopefully, 2 years removed from the injury now, maybe the Bucs are getting the best Baker Mayfield that he could possibly be going forward from this point. And we all know, because of the flame out with Carolina and, because he didn't go back to the Rams, he's been on 3 teams in the last 2 years. He sees this as his final opportunity. So he's taking this bull by the horns and trying to make sure that he can definitely be a quality quarterback and show the league that he's still a quality quarterback, a quarterback that can lead a team to the playoffs.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and you broke it down perfectly. The rotator cuff, I think it expected. In 2020, I was when Baker was drafted, I thought he was going to be like a Johnny Manziel. He looked really good. He has a lot of arrogance. I thought he was going to flame out very quickly. Yep. His rookie season, he was phenomenal. After taking over for Tyrod Taylor.
Yep.
That second year, like you said, was terrible. I'm not sure if it was coaching, offensive line. I think it was a mixture of everything. What changed in the third year from what you saw?
Well, it's interesting because in his rookie season, Freddie Kitchens was the offensive coordinator, and Greg Williams was the guy that took over as the interim head coach for Hugh Jackson once Hugh Jackson got canned. And Kitchens was a completely different coach as an offensive coordinator than he was as a head coach, right? So as an offensive coordinator, he was innovative. He had a bunch of trick plays. He kept the other team guessing. He was a dynamic play caller. I don't know what happened to him when he became head coach. Maybe he got scared. Now that he's got the big chair, he was not as adventurous with his play calling. A lot of it was just kind of very Leftwich-esque, if I can say that. And there wasn't really much imagination to their offense. It was basically run Chubb left, run Chubb right. Okay, Baker, bail us out. I just think that there was some kind of disconnect between Baker and Kitchens and just the offense as a whole, and they just didn't gel. Stefanski came in and he installed a QB-friendly offense. It was very, very similar to McVay and Shanahan and what Seattle ran last season, and Baker really kind of did well in that offense. He was actually really good by moving around, like moving the pocket on the bootleg and being able to see the whole field, because Baker's a small dude, right? He's very short in stature, so you can't really have him drop back and sit behind 6'5", 300-pound offensive lineman, because he's not going to see anything. But move him around and he can start seeing the whole field, and that's where he really started to dial in, and he played extremely well. When he got hurt, some of that mobility was taken away. Obviously, it's a shoulder injury. It wasn't a lower leg injury. So it wasn't like, he couldn't run around anymore, but he seemed to be less inclined to want to do that. Right. So because, he's protecting his banged up wing. Right. That's kind of where the things started to break down for him in Cleveland. And then obviously Carolina was just an awful, awful mess. Matt Rule, I don't know what the hell he was trying to do on offense. Carolina's offensive line was, eventually once Steve Wilkes took over after Matt Rule got canned, he did something with the offensive line and made them a lot more consistent. I'm not sure what exactly he did, but they started playing a lot better football. But when Baker was starting early in the season, they were awful. I mean, I actually in my Twitter feed I posted one GIF that showed Myles Garrett just obliterating and Carolina offensive lineman, where he was already in the backfield on Baker before the offensive lineman even twitched, even moved, and it was like, my gosh, Baker had no chance there. Now, I will say. Baker was his own enemy as well. He started chucking it up, and he did what most quarterbacks do when they're under duress, right? He started struggling a little bit, and that's really my biggest concern when it comes to the Bucs. Is our offensive line is a little bit in flux, right? We got Tristan moving to the left. We got a new left guard in Filer. Is Jensen going to be there? Is he not going to be there? We don't know. Mock is a rookie, and then Godecki, at right tackle. And so if our offensive line can't hold up and Baker has to run around for his life, that's not going to be a good thing for us. Yeah. And Baker is not going to be good. But if he can get the time that he got like on Friday night, Baker had time to throw. I don't know what happened with Trask. I think Trask was just kind of holding the ball too long. But when Baker was in there, he was making his decisions. He was very very thorough. The Bucs moved him around. Got him out of the pocket, had him on some bootleg action, and that's where he's good. And if we can continue to do that and he can get the protection that he needs to be able to look down the field and find Mike Evans and find Chris Godwin, our offense is going to be fine.
Yeah, it's, and that's exactly what you pointed out. And I think Mike Evans is going to be, I say he's going to get a lot more play time, especially with Baker Mayfield, because, like you said, the fade routes and everything like that, that is Baker Mayfield's bread and butter. And also, Mike Evans is pretty damn good at that, too. That's what he's named for. And I think that's going to help Mike Evans' game. And Baker Mayfield, I've told many people, I don't say he's no superstar. He's played like it before, but, that's before the injury. And we don't know how he's fully healthy now, but we still don't know how he's going to be when it's regular season.
Yeah.
If he's the starter.
Yeah, the way I look at it with Baker is if he can be even 75% of what he was in 2020, the Bucs are going to have a good quarterback, right? I don't know if he can get there anymore, just simply because, number one, he's not going to have Nick Chubb and that running game to support him. No disrespect to Shad and Sean Tucker and Chase Edmonds. They're not that Browns running game. That Browns running game was like number one in the league. I think we're going to be very improved running the football. I don't think we're going to be number one in the league. So he's not going to have that. But he does have a lot of weapons. Unfortunately, we lost Russell Gage today, but he will have a lot of weapons to work with. I think he can be a top 15 to top 10 quarterback. And if the Bucs can get that with the defense that I think the Bucs are going to have this season, I think not only can they compete in the NFC South, I think they can win the NFC South. And I know everybody's all high on the Saints and, oh boy, look what they did against the Chiefs in a preseason game. But at the same time, I still have a lot of doubts about, number one, the Saints coaching staff. They didn't really make any changes in their coaching staff. They're still the same coaching staff that really sucked last season and still kind of suck. So I still have my doubts there. I have my doubts in their defense being able to hold up. They have no depth on their defense, and they're all over 30. That's usually not a good combination for a team trying to compete for a playoff spot. The team that actually scares me in the NFC South is actually Atlanta, because not only did they load up, they already had some talent. I think the only thing that is the biggest question mark with the Falcons is their quarterback, Desmond Ridder. I liked some of the things he did last season, but I'm not sold. I haven't seen him be a superstar, be a guy that you can count on to win a game. Yeah, he lit up the Bucs third string, in the last game of the season. Big whoop, In the other two games that he played, he was okay. Not great, not bad. It was all right. He didn't get them beat, but he didn't really do anything to help them win either, right? And I think even though Atlanta's kind of loaded up a bit, a lot of times that kind of stuff doesn't come together that quickly, and you really need to give that some time to gel, and that's where you lean on your quarterback to kind of get you through those tough times. And I don't know if Ridder can be that guy. We'll see.
Desmond Ridder, if I had to be honest here, there's optimism with him because he has a good team. I think Cordell Patterson is a hell of a running back. He's a good switchblade, or a swift knife, I should say.
Yep.
He can do a little bit of everything: running back, receiver. Forget if he wants to play safety, he probably could do it. But Desmond Ridder has not proven he can be that guy. And it was only his rookie season. You're not like Peyton Manning was terrible in his rookie season, so you really don't know. But if I had to put my money on it, I would say he's probably going to play him out. Just think they're going to have a good defense. I think they're going to have an okay year, but Desmond Ridder, I don't think he's going to be that guy.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I need to see more before I believe. I didn't see him as like a Brock Purdy where he was lighting people up and things like that. He looked okay. He just looked like a guy, right? Mid-range quarterback. Maybe he's not going to get you beat, but he ain't going to throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns either. That kind of thing. And of course, now he's probably going to do that his first game, and then everybody's going to be able to kind of like old takes expose me on that one. But I just don't really. I don't see the elite skills with him. Maybe I'm just missing it. Maybe I just haven't seen enough of him yet, but I don't see it there. I think Carolina is going to be interesting too because I think their offensive line is bad again, and I think Bryce Young, while he has all the talent in the world, he's also really, really small, and I don't know if he's going to be able to hold up behind that line. I really don't. And plus, they got rid of all their weapons, so Carolina has no weapons on offense really. So
and I'm feeling there's no TJ Moore. He's good, but he hasn't had 1,000 yards in 4 years.
Yeah, and their defense is okay. I think they'll be better than they were last season, but they're not world beaters by any stretch of the imagination. So I think, Carolina's probably going to be at the bottom of the division again. I'm fairly certain about that. I think it may be a 3-team fight between the Bucs, Atlanta, and New Orleans because I think New Orleans will contend. I just don't see them being a 10, 11, 12 win team that everybody's trying to make them out to be. They're not going to be that. I don't think anybody in the NFC South is going to win more than 10 games, to be honest.
Yeah, I think if I had to put it, I believe the Bucs and Saints are very close to each other. I might be biased, but I feel like the Bucs have a little bit of upper hand. But I just think we have a better coaching staff because we made a lot of changes this year, and I think we are a better with our players because we have a young running back. Mike Evans, he doesn't get too many injuries. And we got a lot of young lot of young players. The Saints, they have a lot of players that have been injured and a lot older.
But they're the oldest roster in the league.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we found out that that's not the best thing to be.
No. Now, we found out last year when we got pulverized by the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly.
And like even they're hyping up Mike Thomas, but Mike Thomas hasn't had 1,000 yards in 4 years. Similar to I'm feeling. So it's like, and Alvin Kamara's suspended for 3 games, so it's not looking good for him right now.
Yeah, Mike Thomas, all due respect to what he achieved early in his career, he's not that guy anymore. He really isn't. And, he'll still catch the slant pass, with the best of them, but he's not a difference maker anymore. He honestly isn't.
No, I'm not saying they're trying to catch what he was, but that's not him anymore. He's a lot older receiver, has dealt with many injuries, and I think they're overhyping themselves. I don't say they're acting like they're a top 10 team. They're just not that team anymore. You know what I mean? I think they'll be decent, but I don't think they're hyping up. I don't think they are the team they're hyping up.
Yeah, I was reading some article the other day where they were talking about the Saints as a Super Bowl contender, and I'm like, are you guys insane? They're not a Super Bowl team. Nobody in the NFC South, us included, we're not a Super Bowl team either. If maybe we'll get lucky and catch fire right at the right time and run through the playoffs, but that's what you kind of got to hope for. But on paper, there's not a team in the NFC South that's going to contend in the NFC for the Super Bowl.
No.
But we can definitely win this division. We can definitely maybe get to a second round playoff game, and then we'll see what happens after that. But no team in the NFC South is going to the Super Bowl. I'm sorry to break it to the Saints fans and the Falcons fans and the Panthers fans and my fellow Bucks fans. But none of us are going. I hate to say it.
Man, and you look at it, and you just take a look at the other teams. The Vikings, the defense is fucking awful, but they got Brian Flores as defense coordinator, who's known to revamp a defense very quickly, and they got a top 5 offense already. So that's another team that's dangerous.
Lions are good. Lions are good. Yeah,
Lions are good. I almost forget about them because I'm used to them just being that team. Almost like the Falcons. But, you got the Lions, you got the Vikings, you got who else is out there?
Niners are still going to be good. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that are they're ready for a Super Bowl. I just don't think the Bucs are there. Yeah. And this is Baker Mayfield's first year as a Buccaneer. I think he's going to win the job, my personal opinion. But let's say he does win. I don't think we're Super Bowl contenders. Because in the first year is always that learning curve, because they're in a new system. They're getting used to the chemistry of the players. I'm kind of in line with you. Maybe we can have a little fire in the playoffs. We make the playoffs at like 9 wins or 10 wins, and we beat the wild card team. Let's say the Giants, if they make it. And the second round, you'll just have to see there, depending on
Eagles too, right? Yeah, the Eagles are going to be a team to contend with too, and there's always the Cowboys as well. Although they're the Cowboys. We know.
What the Cowboys reminds me? I compare them to the Vikings. They have a lot of superstars. Defense has been better. I will say that, but the run line of the Vikings, they seem like, oh man, could this team actually go to the Super Bowl? And then they make stupid mistakes in the playoffs and they lose. And it's like, can they win? Like Dak Prescott is a good quarterback, but I think he's very similar to Kirk Cousins. Can he win? When the pressure's on, can he actually do it? At least make the championship game, which he hasn't done. So that's where I like Dallas is going to be a contender. Be facing last year and got pulverized, so that's definitely a team to look out for.
Yeah.
You mentioned, man, like all the teams, there's a bucket load. So I don't say that's why I'm not super optimistic we're going to go to the Super Bowl this year, but playoffs for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think the Bucs will contend in the NFC South. I think it's going to be one of those divisions that come down to the last week. it may come down to that game at the end of the season, and it's going to be interesting to see, how Canales improves over the season as a play caller, because he's never done it before. That's another kind of intangible that we're not really sure how Canales is going to kind of handle being the guy, right?
Yeah.
And everything that we see and everything that we hear seems to be positive, and that he's very imaginative, very young guy, but we won't know until he's really calling games for real. We're not going to learn anything much in the preseason because everything's vanilla in the preseason.
But basically competition for the players to get be starters and stuff like that, like Kyle Trask and Baker. So that's basically what the preseason is, just glorified practice.
Yeah, but I do agree with you, Gage. Baker's going to win the job. I think he's probably already won it. To be honest with you, I think they're just letting it play out a little bit longer, just to push Baker a little bit more, make sure that he's still engaged. But in the end, he's definitely going to be the quarterback. Todd Bowles knows this is a season he has to win, right?
Yeah, people are saying. Sorry to interrupt, but
no, go ahead.
People are saying he's on the hot seat, but I think Todd Bowles. I think this is his opportunity to show that he can be the head coach, because there's a lot of questions around him, like, can this guy be the head coach for the Buccaneers? Was it a mistake for Bruce Arians to give this job to Todd Bowles?
Right.
Because he failed with the Jets. So that's a question around it, I say.
Yeah, and this is his opportunity to show he can build his own team, right? He handpicked Canales. Canales is his guy. So if Canales fails, then Bowles is going to fail, and they're all going to be canned, right? Yeah. But if things go well, if the Bucs win the division for the third straight year, make the playoffs the fourth straight year, then he solidifies himself, and he's not going to have to worry about it anymore, right? Everybody's going to know, okay, Bowles is fine. He's fine as a head coach. Maybe he's not, as flamboyant as BA was, but he's still, a good, solid coach to be respected and can win in the NFL. And he's not going to put all his eggs in Kyle Trask basket, a guy that has never started in the NFL, has played a quarter of football in the NFL, when he has Baker Mayfield there, who's led a team to the playoffs, has won a playoff game, and damn near beat Kansas City in Kansas City in the year that the Bucs ended up playing Kansas City in the Super Bowl. So I can't see the scenario that I saw where Trask won the job was Trask just balls out, right? And up to this point, we'll see what happens with the Jets game, but up to this point, we haven't seen him do that ever as an NFL quarterback. We've seen Baker do it. Baker's had balls out kind of game, right? But we've never seen Trask be that level of a quarterback in the NFL. And Bowles isn't staking his job, his last shot at being an NFL head coach on that.
No, he's not. That's another reason why, because Todd Bowles knows he's on a leash right now. Doesn't. He's very limited because Jason Light did not pick him. That Bruce Arians recommended him and got him that job. Yeah. Because if it were for Bruce, Todd won't be here. So it's he is on a short leash. He needs to. This is his guys. This is his opportunity. He picked his own staff. This is his opportunity to solidify his spot as a head coach. So I agree with you. He's going to put whoever's going to have the best opportunity to win ball games, and that's Baker. Baker has done it in the big games. He has won. And everyone can say what they say. Oh, he beat the shadow Ben Roethlisberger, the skeleton Ben Roethlisberger, but he still won against Super Bowl winning quarterback and a decent team.
On the road. Yep.
On the road, exactly. And he almost beat Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs, who have 2 rings in 5 years. So that was impressive to say the least. And in Cleveland, and before Baker was even there, they won 1 game. If that,
before Baker arrived. In fact, I was looking at this before we came on. Cleveland went 1-31. 1-31 in the 2 previous seasons before Baker got there. And they're expecting him to win Super Bowls in Cleveland. I mean, come on. And he is the only quarterback in the last 20 years to lead them to a playoff and give them a playoff win. But he sucks. Everybody says he sucks. Okay, we'll see. We'll see.
I think, and you know, Baker Mayfield has a history. He walked out of Oklahoma. And when he's back is against the wall, he's known for this.
Mm-hmm.
He plays phenomenal. And I
Yep.
think he's going to do that once again. But this is, I will say, I mean, we don't have the running game like the Browns do, but I think we have the most complete team overall. We have a very balanced team, and I think Baker's going to ball out. To be honest, you know, it's a little. I think it's going to happen, and a little optimism mixed in there. But I think that's my fault. You know, Baker. Everyone knows I've been a fan of him. But like I said, you know, between those two, Baker Mayfield contrasts, you look at leadership. You know, that besides the play, we've seen it, but we look at the leadership. Baker Mayfield's he's a wild leader. You know what I mean? He's gonna he'll fucking pump everyone up in the locker room. Contrast, I've always been concerned with that because he's a very quiet person. He doesn't speak up a whole lot, you know, and I make jokes. I'm like, that's the kind of guy you forget about, you know, like
yeah, exactly. You know, you bring up an excellent point, Gage, because that's one of the things I neglected to talk about was his ability to lead a team. Baker's ability to lead a team is, you know, right up there with anybody. He is one of the most fired up quarterbacks that you can get. And I loved it. You know, it's kind of funny because when he's not your quarterback, he's like, oh, that guy's a jerk. He's an arrogant prick. Excuse my language.
You're good, man.
He's you know, he's just a really, you know, arrogant son of a gun, right? But when you actually see him and you're watching him from a fan's perspective, as you know, somebody that's, you know, you're actually rooting for him to do well for your team. He's a heck of a leader, man. I mean, he, you know, just the way that he carries himself, the confidence that he gives the players around them, the way that he fires up his teammates, the passion that he shows on the field, he's going to give you every single ounce he has. Right. And I'll be honest, you know, as much as I love Kyle, he doesn't have that fire in him. Right. He doesn't have that ability to be able to, he leads in his own way. Right. He's like you said, he's a quiet leader. Not everybody has to be the rah, you know, guy to be able to be a leader. But, you know, I think at this stage where the Bucks are, where, you know, Tom's gone and, you know, there's a void there. They need somebody that can step in and take charge and, you know, be the guy that can fire his teammates up, because, you know, Tom's not there to do that anymore. And, you know, let's face it, Tom tried to do it last season and they were already tuning Tom out. So, and if you're tuning out the GOAT, right, then, you know, they obviously needed a different voice. And, you know, I think Baker is the kind of guy that, you know, he'll be your best friend, but he'll also chew your butt out if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And, you know, I think that's kind of what they need right now.
100%. And like people say, I think they have that dog in him. Like Baker Mayfield, I'd say has that dog in him. He's that guy that will fight for everything. He with the Browns. If he would have got surgery, if he would have never played that season, he probably went to a better team, to be honest, better than Pamper, because he would have been more valuable.
Yep.
Because before he got hurt, he had, like, 2020, he had a great season. So he would have been a top contender. He went to the 49ers. So it's Baker Mayfield, though. He wasn't thinking about himself because he could have sit out, made more money that following season. But he's like, you know what? I'm going to fight for my guys. Let's fucking win this.
Yeah, and he hurt himself. He really hurt himself in doing that because he wasn't ready to play, and he struggled. And it gave the Browns the ability to be able to say, "Well, Baker's not the guy. Let's go find, you know, the guy that's, you know, loves his massages, right?" And you know, and then the train wreck that was Carolina. I mean, yes, we're making excuses for Baker, you know, but at the same time, the circumstances kind of justify his struggles, right? You know, Carolina was a train wreck, you know, Cleveland at the end of his run at Cleveland, they were falling apart too, and OBJ was he wanted to be traded, and all kinds of craziness was happening all around the Browns that last bit of that season. And then of course, there was the flirtation with Watson, and everybody kind of knew that the Browns were kind of one of the teams that were in on Watson, and Baker's like looking around like, what the hell, did I not just lead you guys to the divisional playoffs just 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, we're making some excuses for Baker's struggles in the past couple seasons, and we'll find out who the real quarterback is this season, because this is really his last shot at being a starting quarterback in the NFL, and I'm confident. I'm confident enough to say that I think he's going to be the best Baker Mayfield we can see, and probably the best Mayfield we've seen since 2020. And I don't know what that translates to. I don't know if it's like 25 touchdowns and 7 interceptions and 4,000 yards. I don't know what that means, but I think we'll get the best that we could possibly get out of him, and I think it's going to be enough to have the Bucs as a contender.
I 100% agree. Baker Mayfield honestly will be 2020, but I think he'll be the best he's been since then.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what you said. I'm not sure how that'll translate. I'm not sure it'll be like 2020 because his injury definitely impacted him. But if he can even be like you said, around 75% of that, we're going to the playoffs. I think. With Mike Evans, Godwin, our defense, we got like. You look at it, and a lot of people are not talking about the Bucs, but you look at it, we could have lost a lot of players. Levante David could have left or retired. Not Carter Davis, but Jamal Dean was looking at being the top cornerback getting paid. He took a cheaper deal to go with the Bucs.
Yep.
So our offense, we won. The offseason, we won because we're negative, like, what, 40 million, something like that?
Yeah.
So overall, the Bucs defense I think they're top 10. I think we can be easily top 10. And we'll see how it translates because we got a lot of young guys. But if our defense plays the way I think they are, we're like a 10-win team. And that makes the playoffs.
Yeah. I'll even go a step further, Gage. I think the Bucs have a top 5 defense. I think the pass rush is going to be back this year. I think as long as we can stay healthy in as the secondary, I think our secondary is one of the best in the league. And you have Devin White and Levante David and SirVocea Dennis, 3 top. I mean, obviously I'm crowning Dennis a little early, but we know we at least have 2 all-pro linebackers, and we might have a young stud coming too, who's ready to step in for either one of those players if they get hurt. So we have a little bit of depth in our linebacking core too. So I think the defense is going to be phenomenal. And I am excited to see all of Bowles play with all of these new pieces. And when Kancey comes back, we haven't seen Kancey, right? None of us has been able to see the practices that Kancey's been in because they weren't open to the public, right? They were only like OTAs and whatnot, and he got hurt the second day of training camp. So nobody's really seen him. And I just have a feeling he's going to be an excellent football player for the Bucs. And I'm really excited to see him join Vita Vea and then Shaq looking like he's back, right? And maybe JTS will finally take that step, right? And Yaya's back there now. And I tell you one thing, Yaya, it's preseason, so we got to kind of calm ourselves a bit. But Yaya looked like JPP to me, like a young JPP. And if that's the kind of player Yaya's going to be, man, we've got a front 7 to be feared. And from all accounts in the reports today, we gave Aaron Rodgers fits in practice today. So, hey, that's practice is practice. You know what Allen Iverson says about practice, but it's one of those things where I really do believe Bowles is going to have the defense right. It's all about the offense. Can our offensive line hold up? Is Canales a good play caller? If we can get the offense right and Baker can be a better version of Baker and not be the Carolina Baker, then yeah, we're going to be fine.
Yeah, I thought top five, but I thought it was being a little bold. But I think everyone's kind of seen how our defense is looking, like
Yeah.
very special. And Kansi, I was kind of disappointed to see him injured, which has me a little concerned. But if he can come out and healthy, I say he's going to be a very special player. He's a
Yeah.
guy that you didn't hear. At least I didn't hear much about him. So I remember that I was at the draft party, and we're all looking around because at that point I thought we are getting Nolan Smith, who dropped. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
we're getting
Yeah.
Nolan Smith at this point, man. He's a top linebacker. He's supposed to be drafted way earlier. And everyone, Kansi got drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're all looking at her like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
Who's this guy?
Yeah. I'll be honest, I didn't watch a lot of Pitt football. But as soon as as soon as he got drafted, I started researching him and seeing some of that game tape and seeing that Aaron Donald type. He's not Aaron Donald. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna crown him like Aaron Donald. So don't already flame me, Bucks fans. I'm not saying that he's anywhere near the all-world Aaron Donald, Hall of Famer Aaron Donald, but you could see some of those traits, right? And the speed and the get off and just the ability to be able to get into the backfield and penetrate. Bucks haven't had a guy like that since maybe Sapp. It's been a long time since the Bucks had a penetrator like that on the line. And if he can be even close to that, with all the other elements we have on our defense, it's going to be something to see.
Yeah, exactly. And we have Vita Veda. I think he's a top 10 defensive tackle, but imagine him and a guy that is a penetrator, what Kansi could be. And those two together, if he plays like I think he will, a very, very dangerous defense. And a defense that could carry us deep in the playoffs. With Baker Mayfield, as long as he doesn't turn over the ball and he's playing the ball I think he will, this team could be dangerous.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
Yeah, man, and I'm telling you, man, like, I was trying, I had a lot of debates with people that were fan of Kyle Trask, with the Baker Mayfield, but your analyst, man, it was the perfect breakdown. Like exactly like why every single year, it was. I was taking a look at it, and it was like the perfect breakdown, man. It's even in his second year, it was like. Yeah, I wasn't sure what to make of this second or third year, but you broke it down perfectly where you can kind of see what really happened.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I did my best. I'm no, Josh Quepo of Pure Report or in any of these PFF guys that are have all these advanced analytics or anything like that. I'm just a fan who loves football. I'm turning 50 this year, so I've seen a lot of football, and I've seen a lot of losing football. I've seen a lot of teams that have, I've seen two teams that won the Super Bowl, right? So I kind of know it when I see it. I like to think, and I felt it important for me, and for my own sanity to look at this quarterback and give him a fair shot. And not have all the prejudices that I had, because I'll be honest with you, Gage, I wasn't a Baker Mayfield fan coming into it. I had the same kind of doubts that everybody else had about him. Oh, Baker Mayfield, he's kind of sucked in Carolina, and he's not that great, right? But I wanted to go in with an open mind and see just what kind of quarterback he really was, and in the end, I came out of it a Baker fan because I think the guy, has been in some situations that was really kind of, not his fault. It's not his fault he got hurt. It's not his fault, his team gave up on him. It's not his fault he went into a terrible situation in Carolina, was traded there late. So he had a late chance to really acclimate with the team. And then, the head coach there was a complete moron. And that wasn't Baker's fault. That was just, dumb, terrible luck. Right.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see him with a full training camp, weapons galore, and an offense that really fits him. If he can't make it here, he's not going to make it anywhere, and he's going to be a bust. But I just really feel that, from what I've seen over the last 5 seasons of Baker Mayfield, that he can be a quality quarterback in the NFL. I don't think he'll ever be Mahomes, but I think he can be a quality quarterback. And, he's a guy that can win you a lot of games, win you division titles. And, if everything falls right, maybe a Super Bowl. Not this year,
No.
but, in the future, it could possibly happen. You never know.
Yeah, and I'm right around with you, man. It's not this year. This is the first year. Baker still has to get the chemistry with his teammates, everything like that. And
we got to get out of cap hell. We got to get out of cap hell. We got to have some money and be able to get some more veteran talent on the team, because right now we're a bunch of kids on this team. So, Mike Evans is probably our Mike Evans and Levante David are our 2 oldest players now.
Yeah.
And so we need to get some veteran leadership back on the team before we could really truly contend for a Super Bowl again. At least that's my opinion. Who knows? Maybe they'll prove me wrong. But I think, I think we'll be able to tread water this season. I think we'll still be able to compete. I think we'll win the division. And then, we'll see what happens next year. Light will have Brady off the books and a lot of that dead cap off the books. Let's see what can happen then. But let's not talk about next season. This season, we still can do some nice things and have a good season.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And we got to focus on this season, but that would be ideal for next season. That's why I think this year's kind of a trial one, see how Baker does as a starter and if he can lead his team to like a playoff season, a winning season. So we're going to have to see. And to kind of close things out, what are a couple things that you suggest that we kind of look out for this upcoming Saturday preseason game?
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting because Kyle's going to get the start this week. So it'll be interesting to see how he manages the offense. Can he move them down the field? Baker was moving the football. We just had a ton of penalties and stupid stuff happen that would kill the first few drives, but Baker was moving the team. Can Kyle do that? Can Kyle avoid mistakes? For Baker, can we see the deep ball for Baker, right? Baker's was really good in game 1 of, taking what the defense gave him. I want to see the deep ball, because one of the things that Baker lost when he got hurt was his accuracy on the deep ball. He used to be one of the most accurate deep ball throwers in the league, and then he had the shoulder injury, and then after that he's been kind of scattershot. So I want to see the deep ball and see him hit Trey Palmer on a deep pass and see that explosiveness, because the Bucs are going to need that if they're going to be able to be a top 10, top 15 offense, right? They need to have some explosives, because we lost that last season. We hardly had any explosive plays, but we saw a little glimpse of it in the Carolina game. What happens when our offense can hit those big plays, right? And we just need to get back to that, and so that's what I'm going to be looking for is, does Baker have the big plays in him? They say that he's been doing it in practice, but I want to see it in a game.
Yeah, that's where it really matters, the games. In practice, you don't have defenders on the guys.
Yeah.
It's not a real game situation. So that's a good thing to point out, and I'll definitely be looking at that for Saturday, especially with the Jets. Jets have some really good defense. I think top 10.
Yeah, the Jets shut out the Panthers last week, and made Bryce Young start to question his life choices. So, it's going to be interesting to see how Kyle handles that rush, and as well as Baker. It's going to be interesting to see how both of them handle that.
This is I guess we're going to make appearance on with the HBO show with
Yeah, hard knocks. Yeah,
Hard Knocks. Yeah. So we're making a little appearance, like, hey guys, what's going on?
Especially with all those fights, Hard Knocks loves it when they're training camp fights. So we're gonna see Levante David duking it out with people. That's gonna be great.
Oh yeah, and Baker Mayfield, he's always exciting to watch, even when he's on Hard Knocks.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll definitely be irritating.
Yep.
Hey, man, thank you for coming on, man. I was really excited when you said you'd be happy to join, and just to kind of give us all the knowledge, like kind of giving the more look into Baker Mayfield without the notions of his last 2 years, looking at the whole puzzle piece instead of just one piece. So thank you for giving us that kind of insight.
Yep, and thank you for having me. It's been great, and I love your show. So keep up the great work, man.
I appreciate that, man, and it's a pleasure to have you on.
Yep, thanks.
Guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe, and